So our drop-in center, it's been difficult for us to have the drop-in center closed because, what the drop-in center offers is kind of what it sounds like. It's not a center. It's actually in a residential community. It's a home. And so the girls really could come in at any time that they need, if they need food, if they need to wash their clothes, if they just want to hang out and have a safe space. And many of them really spend a lot of time there over the summer, aside from all of the services, that are offered there. Just the same way with, after school programs. And it really puts our children at such a higher risk that all of these things are now closed for them and they can't engage in a lot of the pro-social healthy activities, and they don't have the option to. So that is actually really scary. It's very difficult to engage with population in services. So the fact that, our center is closed and we can't have that that face-to-face interaction with them and that safe space for them has been hurting us and hurting, our relationships with them. So we have opened up our virtual platforms. They're all functioning, and we're doing our survivor groups and lots of different things that, are going on, but it's not enough. So we are right now speaking about what are our protocols going to be now to actually reopen, and what is that going to look like? So we're in the process of talking about that. I'm hoping that we're going to reopen in June, hopefully, if things don't go back, words, in terms of numbers with COVID and all of those things. So, we all know going through this pandemic, it's flying by the seat of our pants. What's happening today can be completely different tomorrow. So, but we are still trying to plan for that. And I think it's really important that if the numbers, kind of continue to stay in a direction, that things are coming down and those that are sick are coming down, that everybody really try to work on, if you have programs or summer programs or, anything that you really do start kind of creating those policies and protocols to help families feel safe, the children feel safe, to have a place to go, because it is incredibly necessary.
Yeah. I know some of the pre-questions related to COVID really concerned was what were the trafficking tactics? How did they change during the quarantine and pandemic? And then they would like to know if sex trafficking decreased while staying at home and not traveling.
No and no.
Most people think people think it's, you travel and all the travel restrictions help.
No, because it is a local. Yeah, no, because it is, like I said, it is very much also a local issue. And sadly, what we've also been seeing is people they're still driving, and actually transporting, people from other cities, that maybe the quarantine is, and business has kind of been affected. And so they're coming to more popular areas, like Miami, where numbers and things are kind of, going up. But sadly, what we're expecting is that the numbers are really going to kind of surge up now, because people weren't reporting as much, throughout the quarantine as far as the reporting. Kids were placed back in their abusive environments, many of them that they had chances to escape through after school activities, through being able to be physically at school. And so now there's no reporting bodies kind of around them, counselors or friends, and so unfortunately we know many of us on this call probably that have children and are trying to work from home and maybe have gone through our own courses of therapy and are in healthier spaces. Imagine these kids that are in these environments where those things, don't exist, and the level of abuse that's probably occurring. So, which only creates more vulnerability for exploiters. We know, as I said earlier, sextortion is going up, where traffickers are finding kids on social media apps, and they unfortunately will, again, try to develop that relationship with them, get them to send pictures, inappropriate pictures. And once they have those pictures, then they start to exploit them and tell them, if you don't do what I tell you, you don't send me more pictures or videos, I'm going to send these pictures out to, your family, to your friends, to, I know where all your networks are, I'm going to post this on social media. And so these are kind of the things that we're really starting to see rise.
Yeah. And I'm sorry, real quick, to add to that question, what about people being abducted into trafficking? Because one of our concerns, one of the questions in the chat box is, walking to Booker T is very dark in the mornings, in Overtown. Is someone being abducted? Is that still a thing?
I mean, yes. So it does happen, that kids can be abducted, but what you're going to see more of when kids are walking to school and they're walking alone, traffickers know where to find kids. They know when, they know to be around the school area when kids maybe start walking, out of school and going to, Burger King's, or just walking around the parks, or going to, the local park area when they get out of school. And traffickers will lure them in that way by, coming out of their car, hey, if kids want to smoke marijuana, I got, a joint for you, I have this, let's hang out. And, and those are kind of really the tactics, that we see much more than, again, these kinds of just like abductions where, they're taken and tied up and those kinds of things.
Okay. If there's any other questions, raise your hands or put them in the chat box. But we'll try to wrap this up. What are your last comments, Marta, Zamora, and Sophia? What are your closing remarks to the conversation today?
I'll let Sophia start. She'd
Okay.
I would just say I would love to have another meet, another meeting at some point in time. There are a lot of topics that I feel that could be discussed further. As I mentioned, I did assist someone whose 4 daughters had been abducted by a relative from Miami, and there was no structural relief whatsoever. And I'm telling you, we went to the FBI, the police in several jurisdictions, the sheriffs. I mean, I could go on. I went to literally every entity you could imagine. There was no structural relief. So we had to fight tooth and nail to find them and recover them through a legal process. Which
when abductions happen with family members, which is higher with family members, right?
And again, this would take like a whole nother meeting, but I learned a lot about the structural deficiencies going on within that system of children and families court and otherwise, that would really expose a lot of the vulnerabilities and the certain things that we would want to strengthen. That's what I would say. And I would just love to meet with you all again.
Yes, we will make that happen. We definitely will have some more discussion around this topic for sure. Some more.
Amazing. Yeah, I mean, like she shared, I mean, a lot of it too that was shared is that most kids that are being abused, child abuse happens within the family, as an uncle or a grandfather and all that. So it all really connects. But I would just say with, prevention is so important. A part of this, of Christy House, what they do both, all of it, which are so grateful that we have them in our community. But being an advocate and educating yourself and be able to know when you see a child that, it's insecure and it's not having that nurturing love and has been abandoned or maybe has had child abuse, may not be yet a victim of human sex trafficking, but we can identify things that will make them vulnerable to it. So again, if we educate ourselves, if we really learn what are the things that can make a human vulnerable, because not only girls, it's boys, again, what can make them vulnerable to human sex trafficking, we can be an advocate for them and get them the help they need, whether it be mental health, whether it be mentors, whatever it is that they need, medical help, their necessities, food, shelter, all these things can help prevent them from in the future becoming victims of human sex trafficking. So I just want to share that. And again, like Thelma said, yes, it is so important that we also bring in the laws and the political side. But for now, at least educate yourself. If everyone that's listening, if you're not familiar with human sex trafficking, if you're not with sex trafficking, you're not familiar with the signs, you know, a lot of more to what she shared is the grooming. You know, these men and women are great business people. They'll invest on a child for a year. What does that look like? They'll give them a cell phone, they'll give them a shoe, they'll give them, you know, all these things. So a year later, they'll say, oh, you know what? You know, I've been taking care of all this. Why don't you do this for me? So there's a lot of that going on. And if we can get them through the grooming side, or just say, hey, I see that this is going on. You're hanging out with this guy, or I'm seeing this, or you've been changing, what's going on, and really be able to get in their lives, ask the hard questions, and call if we feel like we feel like there's anything going on. Again, we can at least do whatever we can to prevent them from becoming a victim of human sex trafficking. And again, thank you so much for having this conversation.
Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much.
Aisha, can I say, I'm sorry, can I just say one last thing before we let the call go? So, and I'm gonna go out on a limb here a little bit.
Okay.
Because I wanna talk about this thing called restorative justice. Because we live in a country we are a country with a system of punishment. We punish. And I'm not speaking on behalf of perpetrators, but most of them have been victims themselves. They are ill, and they need help as well. So I want us to just even think about restorative justice. And I know sometimes when you hear it, it's crazy. And I just want to tell a quick story, Lucretia, about the first time that I heard about restorative justice.
Okay.
I went to see Angela Davis. My first time seeing Angela Davis, this is when she had gotten her name cleared. This was maybe 30 years ago. And Angela Davis was talking about restorative justice 30, 40 years ago. So she told this story about, this is when apartheid was really bad in South Africa. A group of Black boys had killed the son of a white family. And this is when restorative justice first started in South Africa. And she said, what came out of the restorative justice session was the family of one of the young Black men who had done the killing. Part of the restorative justice process was they had to give that white family, or they agreed to give the white family their son who had killed their son. And they raised that boy as if he was their own. And I couldn't wrap my head around it. I was like, man, listen, that wasn't even part of what I could comprehend. And I think that is the utopia of restorative justice. It's when everyone is open to, let's see how we can fix our society, because our society is broken. And you have the victims and you have the perpetrators, and you help one and you punish the other, or it's a tug of war. So I think we need to start thinking about another way of looking at this problem, because it's been going on for a very, very, very long time. It's not getting any better. It's not getting worse. And so when I see this tells me that something that we're doing is not working.
Yeah.
The systems that we have are not working. So I think even with sex trafficking, those of us who are able to, because this is not for everybody. Everybody cannot do this. Some of us, we're not going to be able to do it. But when possible, I think that we're going to have to face the fact that whatever we're doing, not just around sex trafficking, but around abuse, around crimes and punishment, around the school to prison pipeline, around all of these things that affect Black and brown communities the most. We're gonna have to come together and say, you guys, we're not making the progress we want. What else can we do? What is it we're not doing? Is there another way? And I just wanted to add that to our conversation.
Yeah.
I think,
Thank you.
and
Thank
Emma, I think that just so, and I agree with you, I think, there has to be a systemic, change. And they've started to kind of come around to some of those ideas in creating some diversion programs, that they're also starting to implement here. And the state attorney's office has been here in Florida. Kathy Rundle has really been very much behind, trafficking. It's really been part of her, platform. And so I know her task force, has really been working, on creating some diversion programs around sex trafficking with Johns, as well. So, those are some of the good things, I think that are coming from that. As far as, closing remarks, I think, just for everyone to, to remember now as we're coming out, and coming out of this pandemic, hopefully, that, everyone, does try to pay attention, to, and be mindful, on what's going on around you out there, because of the fact that, out of this pandemic, what is going to happen with our economy that is going to continue to make, these vulnerabilities worse in our communities, where people are going to be out of jobs, where, they're really going to be facing, trying to keep roofs over their heads and being able to keep, meals, there for the family. And that just, really is going to create, we don't know, such an overwhelming amount of vulnerability, for traffickers to be able to kind of go in, really paying attention, if you can, to what children are doing, on social media. And then, if we're out on the streets, paying attention, to things that might look, a little bit off, when we're walking around within our community and we're seeing our children, that are on the streets. It's not just, what, people think, what are they dressed like, because that's, just another thing, it's, especially for females, but paying attention to the things of, are you seeing them walking around with, more than one cell phone? Are you seeing them, with hair done? Are you seeing them walking around with, a specific male, and how is that male interacting? If you see them getting food somewhere, just kind of paying attention to the interactions, around and what's going on. And if you see something strange, not to be afraid to kind of maybe, call the hotline on it, or walk up to the child and ask, hey, are you okay? Anything like that. I think it's, and especially in any of the after school programs, trying to be as vigilant as possible, because what we're afraid of, and that, is going to happen, that we know is more than likely going to happen, is that we're going to really see a surge, in cases of trafficking out of desperation.
Yeah. Quick question just hit my mind. Is there a database of tattoos anywhere?
I believe the Department of Homeland Security was creating a database of different types of tattoos and what they look like. So I think I could ask about that and get back to you on it. What we started to see a lot of, at least at Project Gold, were girls that were actually tattooing themselves with the word loyalty.
Mm-hmm. A lot of that.
Kind of, having that tattoo placed on their forearms.
Mm-hmm.
So definitely, paying attention, to tattoos is important, and seeing what's out there.